Hey fellow fans, I'm Brian from BMA Comics Con, and I want to talk to you about Amazing Fantasy number 15. So as I'm guessing, you already know Amazing Fantasy 15 is Spider-Man's first appearance, but there are some things that I'm guessing you might not know. If I name anything you don't know, give this video a thumbs up and let me know what it was down in the comments. I'm going to recap the story and tell you some facts about this key issue you may not know. If there's anything that I don't get to mention, please add them in the comments. The story begins like every other Spider-Man story since. We're introduced to a nerdy kid, Peter Parker, but at home he lives with his Uncle Ben and Aunt May, who think the world of him, because he really is a good kid. He excels in school, and because he's too nerdy, he doesn't get the girl, especially with Flash Thompson around. So now that we get a good feel for who Peter Parker is, we understand why he ends up going to the science exhibit by himself. While witnessing a demonstration of radioactive rays, a tiny spider slides down its web into the rays and is zapped. With his dying breath, it bites Peter, making Peter feel strange, so now even the scientists are laughing at him. Peter, not able to catch a break, leaves, and while not paying attention, walks out in front of a car. Luckily for him, he now has amazing reflexes and jumps out of the way and onto a building. Did the driver stop? No, because it seems no one respects Peter Parker. Just like in the movies, we get a montage of Peter discovering his powers, but in this, the original version, he does not have organic webbing. On his way home, he sees an opportunity to make some money by lasting in the ring with Crusher Hogan. So Peter goes home, makes a disguise, and returns to challenge Crusher. As you should be able to tell, Peter has no problem beating him. This is the first time Peter has people cheering for him, yet he's wearing a mask. The audience actually loves him so much, a TV producer signs him up for the Ed Sullivan Show. Not that I watched Ed Sullivan, but I know that that was a big deal. Have any of you ever watched the Ed Sullivan Show, or does my audience not even know what that is? Please let me know down in the comments. Now that Peter has fame knocking on his door, he decides he can step up the showmanship beyond a plain mask. So he goes home and to make a costume to resemble his spider powers. He even makes web shooters and webbing because every spider needs a web. Day 1 on TV, Spider-Man is a hit. He does tricks and shows off, and boy does the fame get to his head. So much he lets a thief run past him and doesn't even trip the guy, which is terrible because they have high-speed express elevators back in 1962, and there's no way the cop will ever catch up to him. And he doesn't, partially because the cop stays to yell at Spider-Man for not helping. Where Spider-Man replies with, "From now on, I just look out for number 1. That means me." Later that night, in the Parker residence, Peter gets a telescope from his aunt and uncle just because he wanted it and he's a good kid. Today is the best day of Peter Parker's life, and nothing can change that. And nothing did. Over the next couple of days, Spider-Man continues to perform on TV, and his fame increases. Then, one night, on the way home, he gets the unfortunate news we all knew was coming. A police officer is outside the house. He's there to tell Peter his uncle's been murdered by a burglar. Then he tells him his aunt's at the neighbor's house, and the burglar is at the old Acme warehouse. So of course Peter runs off to the warehouse. He even tells the cop. Peter suits up and quickly makes it to the old Acme warehouse. The cops are outside waiting to go in, but Spider-Man doesn't wait. He goes in, chases the burglar, subdues him. That's when Spider-Man looks at the burglar's face, and he sees that this is the same guy he could have stopped. He now knows that his uncle's death is his fault. It's something he could have prevented. That night he learned, with great power must also come great responsibility. That's the story of Amazing Fantasy 15, which was published in August 10th, 1962. A 9.4 graded version of this book was sold for $454,000 earlier this year, so unfortunately it is a reprint that I have. But you could also read it digital with Marvel Unlimited, or find this and many other Spider-Man stories retold in Marvel Tales. So this is the original story of Spider-Man. There are some things here that I want to highlight. First off, This is where we learn Peter's favorite food is Aunt May's wheat cake. Next, unlike the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies, Peter went alone to the science exhibit, not on a field trip. The spider that bit Peter couldn't have bitten anyone else, or be later captured because it died after biting Peter in this version. Also, there were no girls shown in this, so Cindy Moon, aka Silk, couldn't have gotten her powers according to this version of the story. Cause I think if Cindy Moon was there, Peter's foolish for not trying to date the nerdy girl. Cause yes, I think that right there is a woman and couldn't be Cindy Moon. To continue comparing to the movie, the wrestler's name was Crusher Hogan, not Bonesaw. And the reason Peter made his costume is because he was an entertainer. It was meant to be eye-catching and interesting. That is why he has the webbing under his arm. It was not added for functionality. We were taught his web shooters require strength and the middle and ring finger to activate, so it doesn't go off when he punches. But in this he says that it'll take the slightest pressure of any finger. This issue also explains how he made his webbing. He described it as strong liquid cement. Now, as you can see, Spider-Man has come a long way from these. Many of these facts aren't a part of the current Spider-Man's history, but change is good sometimes, not always. Change switched his costume from this original Steve Ditko design many times to his modern suit. Fun fact, Spider-Man wasn't the only story in Amazing Fantasy 15. It was an anthology book, previously named Amazing Adult Fantasy. They took the adult out of the name because the large young reader base they had. And with it, we got this story about Peter Parker, a high school student whom many young people could relate to. Despite most people's fear or dislike of spiders, they loved the Amazing Spider-Man. Those were some of the things I think you should know about Amazing Fantasy 15. Oh, and the fact that it was written by Stan Lee and Steve Ditko. If you enjoyed this and want to see more videos about key issues you should either own or at least know about, subscribe to this channel. You can do so by clicking on my face right now. Thanks for watching this video. Until next time, Brian out.